The Sportscast, March 22nd, 2021. If you haven't yet, please subscribe in all our channels, YouTube, Periscope, and Apple Podcasts. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave a rating and a review. It will help us out tremendously. We're also on DAB online radio. You can listen to us on the app or on our website and visit us at thesportscast.net. thesportscast.net for the latest and greatest when it comes to sports news. March Madness came into roaring start this past weekend. Couple surprises, couple brackets being messed up. That's going to happen. No one has ever had a broken bracket. But a few surprises. Or Roberts, biggest surprise this weekend. Going deep, they are in the Sweet 16. They have had some success before, but this is, I believe, is the deepest. But Ryan can clarify that with us right now. Ryan Krista, welcome back to the Sportscast.
Santiago, it is good to be here. Good to be talking to you on a basketball Monday here as well. As I'm talking here, I'm watching here, the second round here on a Monday, but everything shifted a day due to COVID and all that. So, awesome,
you're talking about Oregon, because Oregon got a bye because I believe VCU got a COVID case, right?
Yeah, I was kind of all confusing. They basically made the rules as if if you have 5 healthy bodies, you can play. And I'm not sure. Obviously, it must be due to contract tracing that basically the whole team was on protocol, but. 2 or 3 hours before game time.
So
yeah, they called it off. So
they called it off, which is quite surprising for you.
Yeah, I knew there would be an issue. I think we're at the point now, as long as everybody's really following these rules that they said. Basically, what you see the only time the players are literally outside the hotel room is what you see on TV, and maybe an hour practice every day. Other than that, they literally are in their hotel by themselves. They eat by themselves. So, this is a delicate subject. I'm not going to get into a whole lot. There's this big thing, is the NCAA pushing it too much to just get this tournament done? The players being, how the players being treated. And then to go even deeper into how the men's players are treated compared to the women's players. That's a big issue NCAA has to deal with. But, and yeah, the NCAA is pushing through because, they're going to want that big payday with all that TV games on, so.
Yeah, which one of the players wore a shirt yesterday saying hashtag not NC AA property.
So there's 3 main players, and they're all from the Big Ten. Isaiah Livers of Michigan, Jordan B. Bohannon of Iowa, and Gino Baker of Rutgers really have led the charge on this idea. All stemmed from, I think Thursday, when the players tweeted out, the picture of the food they got, and John Rothstein, one of the major college sports media people, tweeted, just be grateful that we have a tournament, and basically that led to a firestorm,
I can only imagine.
So, it's kind of this idea, yes, these players have given up a lot already to get to here, and we should be grateful for them, and it's just, it depends, it's 2 sides of the story, but, again, it's just kind of another obstacle in the dealing with this situation.
Of course, there's always issues here and there, but once the tournament gets going, people get a little bit excited, just like Ryan Krista. Let's begin, Ryan, with Oral Roberts. I don't think you saw this coming. I do remember them a couple years ago. They were making some splashes, but this year it seems like a deeper splash. They defeated Oral Roberts beat it, of course, Ohio State. Big surprise there. They beat your team, Florida. Ryan, is this a force to be reckoned with, or this will be dying down next weekend?
So what's interesting about Oral Roberts, they had this superstar, Max Abrams, who legitimately, I think, in both games was the best player on the floor. Really dominated Ohio State. Hey, though, I mean, Oral Roberts is more than just him. They have a couple of shooters outside. They play an NBA style, basically. Spread you out and just drive and shoot a lot of 3-pointers. And Christian college basketball tends to be more traditional. You play through the post and the bigs. So this idea of drive and shoot, and spread out, it's different. And obviously they're not as big as Ohio State or Florida, but they're catching lightning in the bottle, and their star players are making shots. Florida, had a chance to kind of put them away yesterday, and they just couldn't, and they hung around. And if they hang around enough time, they're going to start hitting those shots, and Florida just wasn't able to match them in the end. I mean, Ohio State, a size differential, overall talent, there's a big difference. Yeah, I think what most people thought it was going to be a high-scoring game between Oral Roberts and Ohio State, which it was average, up there. But in the end, I think people just thought, talent will win, like it, does more times or not. We always get these close games, and then, better team wins in the end. But this, Ohio, Oral Roberts went shot for shot, was able to get to overtime, and they were clearly the better team in overtime. Ohio State did have a chance to tie, but, missed a couple opportunities. When it came to Florida, Florida was, never really hit the potential, and that's nothing, but also wasn't necessarily their fault. I mean, Keon Johnson, preseason player of the year in SEC, before conference season starts, has nearly dies on a court against Florida State, and it really shook up the team. And he had a heart issue. He was out for the rest of the year, and actually, not due to COVID, but they actually took about a month pause just because, the team just was really shaken, so they never really got their feet on the ground, they're up and down. I thought a 7 seed for the Gators was a very generous to say. They had some good wins, but they had some bad losses too. But still a young team. I think they'll have their whole core back. So good future for the Gators, just a bad night. But I think everybody loves a Cinderella unless it affects your team. So kudos to Oral Roberts is, really that bracket, Santiago. We were just been, that's where the madness is happening right now. Right now you've got Oral Roberts, versus, Loyola. Arkansas. Yes, I'm sorry, Arkansas. And
then Loyola's going to place Oregon, the Beavers.
Oregon State, yeah. So
which is a good team, I hear, as well.
Yeah, again, this is a team that, they didn't think they're going to make it in a tournament, but went on a run in the Pac-12 tournament, and they've continued it. They're led by Wayne Tinkle, which is probably the tallest coach in college basketball, 6'11". They're not overly dominant skill-wise. They just play fundamentally sound. And they're wearing these teams out. Like, the 4 or 5 teams, these are usually pretty good teams that aren't complete, and that's what they are. Tennessee, was lack shooting. Half-court game, they weren't very good.
Then Oregon State played OSU, Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and then the other day, Oklahoma State is, they can't get to the basket. They're turnover prone. They're just, that's what they're able to do. They force turnovers. They force missed shots. And Oregon State was selectively running, getting some easy baskets, and just kind of held on. Oklahoma State probably had more talent than them. They just weren't able to overcome, the fundamental soundness of Oregon State. So, it's yeah. I think I talked to you last week at this time and just I really thought it was going to be chalk because there was such – the good teams are good and the average teams are average, but these average teams are playing well above, what we've seen all year. And I guess that's just, 2021 life we know, and it's confusing and it's hard to read.
Is it the COVID effect? No, well, it's just basketball. It's just the grit of
it's not
things.
a COVID specifically, but it's the effect of a COVID season. The whole body of work wasn't consistent. When teams are stopping and starting, and most teams did, they never had that fluid season, and So we never knew really how great teams were and how average teams, because a team could have won a lot of games, won on a pause, and you really never played like look at this Oregon I'm watching. They went on a long pause this year, and basically, they didn't get to finish their season. They were able to scram a couple of games at the end of the year just because the Pac-12, knew that they were probably the best team in their conference and wanted, to be represented nicely in the tournament, which, we'll see. But, again, it's just the COVID effect isn't necessarily COVID. It's just the unevenness of the season, and that's just, that's life. Let's, we're just happy to have basketball, and I appreciate what the players have done and sacrifices they have to entertain us.
And our other colleague Byron Jones says, "Go or Roberts University." Okay, looking at these two games, of course, we're not going to look at these two teams exclusively, but Oral Roberts plays Arkansas, Ryan, and Loyola plays Oregon State. Which of these two Cinderella teams, I'm going to call them that, are going to advance to the Elite Eight?
Let's start with, Loyola, I think here's the thing, Loyola, if they played in another conference, I think they'd be a 3 or 4 seed. This is a darn good, they're so fundamentally sound. They know who they are. They know what they do. They don't recruit the best athletes, but, they have a strategy of really just handpicking good players off of state championship teams. I think all but 3 of the players on the roster won the state championship in high school. So maybe they're not, the 5-star athletes or the blue chippers, but they got, solid players. They know how to win, and it shows. Really, they're able to beat Georgia Tech, which, people expected after Jose Alvarado was out for Georgia Tech due to COVID. So not much thought was in that, but, they go head-to-head with their state flagship university in Illinois, who was, I think, other than Gonzaga, was probably, the second highest total probably in all the brackets of winning the championship. Was, they were playing great basketball, and they just won wire to wire. It was dominating. It wasn't even close. So kudos to the Ramblers and Sister Jean there, and everybody. And then when you go to look at Oral Roberts, Arkansas again.
Can this be done? Can they overturn them?
It could be. It could be done. Again, highly unlikely. The momentum will be shut. A couple of days off. And able to carry on the momentum. Last time, the only other time a 15 team made this through 16 was the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles after they beat San Diego State and Georgetown. Ran into a buzzsaw on the Gators in the Sweet 16. Again, I could see this game being close. It's hard to look at the talent of the two teams and say, they're going to be able to do it again. But I'm not going to say never. But, Arkansas, they bully. They had their scare in the first game against Colgate, fell behind by, I believe, 14 points, came back. They really dominated them in the second half, and then kind of held off a pesky Texas Tech team yesterday. Again, I think they've won 11 out of 12 games right now, so they're playing really well, and it's hard to believe that, an upstart Oral Roberts could beat Arkansas. So I do believe Arkansas will go to the Elite Eight over there.
And that game will be this weekend. Oral Roberts' coach has to do laundry today because he didn't bring enough clothes, didn't think he'll stay another week, but hopefully he'll get that situated very soon. Another team making some splash, Syracuse, they barely got in, and they're making a run. They beat San Diego State, not too hard, but then they beat West Virginia, a huge matchup. Ryan, tell us about Syracuse.
So Syracuse, it's kind of the name of the game, Bubble U, as we like to call them up here in upstate, because they're always on the bubble. They either just make it or just out. They kind of, the consensus is that they really didn't deserve the 11th seed without playing in the playing game. But, they got the seed they got, and they're kind of taking advantage of it. What makes Syracuse dangerous in March is that they played a strictly 2-3 zone, which they've known for. It's kind of Coach Boeheim's thing. But they play it so differently. They're so long and athletic. They recruit a certain type of athlete. And typically, these type of, he recruits these athletes that may not be great shooters, but what separates this team is that it's full of shooters all around. They kind of live and die by the 3-point line, and led by his son Buddy Boeheim, and upstate Central New York star Joe Girardi, a local product, kind of carried a load offensively, with a lot of pieces around him. But most teams, they don't play that type of 2-3 zone, and they don't, especially like a West Virginia, hadn't seen it. No one in the Big 12 plays strictly zone defense, or at least not that type of zone defense. Baylor will mix in a little exotic zone, but nothing like Syracuse is. So when you haven't seen it before, and especially in a tournament game, you fall behind, your nerves are hit, because if you look at the size of the players, West Virginia, and especially Jarrett Culver, should have been killing the inside of Syracuse, but they just couldn't get the ball to him. Just because the zone wouldn't let them, So I think West Virginia in the second half was able to stay in it because they got hot themselves from the 3-point line, but eventually they cooled off, made a little bit of a late run, but Syracuse was just too much. And then you go back to Friday night, and which wasn't even a contest against San Diego State, because I think one time San Diego State had missed over 20 straight shots, mostly from the 3-point line. If you're not going to hit from the 3-point line against Syracuse, you have literally no chance. So kudos to the Orange as they play Houston here coming up this weekend, a team who themselves basically were able, down by 10 with like 3 minutes left. They couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, and they just kind of gutted themselves out, playing Rutgers team who you got their first tournament win in a long time, first tournament appearance in a long time. We really they're building a good foundation, but they, talent for talent, Houston more talent, but, eventually that won out at the very end. But look at Houston, Syracuse matchup, it's a pick 'em to me. I think it depends if Houston can take advantage and get to the hole. Yeah, they should win this game because I don't think they can shoot the ball that well. But I think they're well coached in the Calvin Sampson, so it'll be a good game.
One team that we were hoping to be the Cinderella, Winthrop, did not do it. They lost against Villanova. But Villanova, hey, they're in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I mean, that was the kind of the consensus was pick Winthrop in that first round against Villanova. And, Villanova kind of dominated Winthrop, and there they go. They play the upstart North Texas, who beat Purdue in the first round, and they dominated them. So, Villanova is making all those experts look bad here. So, again, they're missing their best player, Billy Gillespie, but still, I mean, what they've done, I know not against name-brand teams in Winthrop and North Texas, but they've dominated both those games, and it hasn't even been close.
We got a question about Alabama, Maryland, but that will be in our prediction segment of the show a little bit later on. So, Ryan, obviously on the South and Midwest region, we got Houston, Syracuse, Oregon State, Loyola, Chicago, Oral Roberts, Arkansas, Villanova, and Baylor University is looking good so far.
Yeah. That's
who do you have going to the? Well, we'll go into the predictions a bit later, but it looks like what you got for your predictions had Illinois going to the national championship. They're out.
Yeah. I didn't see it coming. I kind of fell in love with Illinois like the rest of the country did. They're playing so great, and as usually if you're playing good going into March, you usually kind of carry it on, in the tournament. But again, we ran into that buzzsaw. I do feel good about Baylor. I know they played very well yesterday against Wisconsin. So,
do you think now that Illinois is out, do you think they'll make the national championship?
Yeah, they should. It doesn't mean they will. Especially when you're looking at who's left in this tournament, they're going to have to fall. But who knows? I mean, Santiago, you're looking at a game today in the second round of 14 versus 11. It's just anything can happen, Santiago.
Abilene Christian, that's another one that they upset at Texas. So
what a game, Santiago. I would, but yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, Baylor, with saying the first two games, they're flexing their muscles. They're a good team. They're showing why at one time they were undefeated and really cruising. Yeah, had a couple hiccups at the end of the year, but I I don't foresee them losing, but that doesn't mean they won't lose.
And then Abilene Christian.
Yeah, so that was, again, one of those kind of like the same idea where you got this private school, within the state and getting to play like the major state university. There's a lot of pride on the line because, all those guys probably wanted to play for Texas. They wanted to be recruited by Shaka Smart, and they didn't. And they kind of play with that chip on their shoulder. The way the camera angle from that game was the camera was so high, but you could really see the size differential. It's crazy between. But that the Wildcats at Abilene Christian were pesky. They forced turnovers. They made Texas very uncomfortable. They made a lot of crazy layups to stay in it, and then you're up by 4. It seemed like for an eternity here in the last couple of minutes, and then Texas last minute game, hits a 2 and a 3, and they go up by 1 with 14 seconds left, and you're like, wow, it's over, but there you go, they get to the cup, they force, Texas to block the shot, which leaves somebody wide open for a putback, end up getting fouled. The guy, 56% foul shooter, drills 2 free throws. It's kind of made for movie event there. Again, I would think that UCLA, the way they're playing, there's 2 games, against Michigan State and what they did against BYU, they should win this game. But the same thing against, is Abilene, like an Oral Roberts, who just carries that momentum into this game and plays with that chip on their shoulder.
Another team that was not surprisingly, but Ohio beating Virginia.
Yeah, it seemed like, for 30 minutes, Virginia was holding their own, rounding into form, and then they lost it, and, Ohio just keeps on coming at you, a great offensive team, Jeff Bowles, the coach of Ohio, former Ohio player themselves, spent a lot of years with Thad Matta at Ohio State, really, is taking hold of this program, and they're going to be a force to reckon with because he's building something special there in Athens. It's just so ironic, you got a chance for Ohio to go to the Sweet 16 while Ohio State is out. So the funniness of these, small schools in these states, going farther than the big state schools is interesting.
Well, there you have it. That is a little bit of the recap of what happened this weekend. Let's look forward for predictions. Are you ready, Ryan?
Let's do this, Santiago.
Currently, as we speak, Iowa's up 41-38 against the Oregon Ducks. Who do you think will come up top?
This is a fun game, people. If you got a chance to turn on your TVs right now, what up and down. If you like offensive basketball, these are 2 teams that play great offense and don't think much about defense. But probably the team that gets enough defensive stops in the second half. I always go, if you got the best player in the court, pick them, and that's Iowa.
Iowa Hawkeyes. Number 8 Oklahoma versus number 1 Gonzaga. Can there be a shocker there?
No, I hope not, Santiago.
You can't afford that.
Gonzaga. No one can. Again, if Gonzaga plays the way they should, this is the best team in the country. Doesn't mean they're going to win the championship. Doesn't mean somebody's not going to rise up one night and they have a bad night. But if everything's even, and I think Gonzaga would have to take a real step back, and Oklahoma would have to play great, which they did against Missouri. But Missouri's not Gonzaga, so I'm going to go with the Zags.
Can Abilene Christian do another upset, but this time against UCLA, number 11?
The way that the Bruins have played, they came in limping. So this is a series, you got, let's just say UCLA comes in, loses, I think, 5 straight games, 4 last regular season games, and then the first game in the conference tournament. And, common sense says, no, this team is not going to advance, and then you got a team like Illinois playing hot, but they got to Indianapolis and they found themselves, and I think they find themselves into the Sweet 16.
And they will.
Yeah, I think so. But don't doubt the peskiness of Abilene Christian Wildcats.
Ryan, you got to be risky here. I think Abilene is a freebie.
I'll cheer for them, Santiago. I just don't think they're gonna win.
Okay. I'll give you that. Number 13 Ohio versus number 5 Creighton.
Yeah. Creighton, get by the, into this round, barely beating UC Santa Barbara, but going against this pesky Ohio team, you want a chance? I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to go Ohio in this game.
Ohio is a very good risk you can take. Number 8 LSU versus number 1 Michigan. SEC versus Big Ten.
Here's the thing, LSU kind of flexed the muscles against St. Bonaventure on Saturday. Show what kind of athletes they have. I mean, this is going to be a close game. Michigan's just well coached. You got a lot of great players. I'm going to go with Michigan, but I do expect this game to come down to the final couple minutes.
That sounds exciting. I'll be watching it if you say so. The Colorado Buffaloes versus Florida State University Seminoles. Number 5 versus 4. This will be a close one.
Yeah, it should be a close game. I think one of the few times that both the 5 and the 4 wins the game. I could see getting this game. Both teams are streaky. They'll go through moments. Looked like Florida State opened the game against UNC Greensboro. Thought they're going to crush them. Only have UNC Greensboro come back. Make that close at the end. Colorado really just dominated Georgetown from the beginning to end. I think this game will be very physical. They're both, two good defensive teams, so it'll be low scoring, but I'm going to go Florida State.
Florida State, the Noles. The game of the day may be Maryland versus Alabama. Justin Riley says the Terps are a slow-paced team. Can Alabama overcome that?
Oh, absolutely. I think Alabama, they played a very pesky Iona team who probably, I think, should have been more of a 13, 14 seed, but because of COVID issues, they didn't get a lot of games in. I think they'll be, they got the game, if they shoot better, because I think Alabama will shoot better in this game than they did against Iona. And I think Maryland played the best game they possibly could against UConn. So I think the Tide will roll in this game.
And Justin Riley says Herb Jones is playing great basketball right now, and so is Javon Quinterly. They are the difference for Alabama. We need John Petty to step up, though.
Herb Jones is a difference maker. He's the engine that makes that team run. He's a great defensive player, but I don't know if he's the best on the team. He's by the best rebounder, but what he does, a little bit of everything. He's just kind of the Swiss Army knife of the Alabama.
And finally, late night game, number 6 USC versus number 3 Kansas Jayhawks. Ryan, is it worth to stay up late for this?
Oh, yeah. It'd be interesting to see. I think USC, Evan Mobley will. Kansas kind of skated through the first game. They kind of got pushed. So I'm not sure. They're probably a team that's been affected the most by COVID issues. So while still being able to play, I'm gonna go USC in this game. I think they're just a little too more balanced.
And there you have it. That is the final of the second round. That'll be finalized by the end of today. Sweet 16 begins this weekend.
Yeah,
so
who do you think is going to win this game as we're talking? Oregon, Iowa.
Oregon, Iowa. I'm going to go for the Ducks. I like the Ducks. I think they have a good chance. They're well rested, and they're up 52-46 right now. Doesn't mean that's going to be continuing, but let's go for the Ducks, man.
Yeah, what do you got, guys? It could be. I think they're playing streaky. But. Iowa's riding a high hand of Luka Garza right now, 22 points, 24 points.
And Will Richardson,
I don't know what the
14.
Tournament record, but he's pushing his way to 40 points today. But
that's
I
NBA
think
level.
It is. It's an NBA game right now, Santiago. The type of points. College basketball, NBA basketball. I think they're barely the same game, other than they're both trying to put the ball in the hoop. But but yeah, both teams are very, they push the ball, they get shots off within, the first 10 to 15 seconds, which is definitely Iowa's a little more obviously front court oriented with Luka Garza, but geez, this is a fun game to watch. Hopefully, more of that today. Santiago, who do you have? You still think Gonzaga is going to win championship?
Oh my Lord, dude! Let's see what happens against Oklahoma, but not really. I think, yeah, man, they're the clear favorite. I guess Baylor might be the second, but it's not saying much. But yeah, Gonzaga is still the clear favorite. Is it going to be a walk? No, of course not. But what do you think?
I think the Zags got it, but I think what we'll see is we're going to see the predictable ending with the Zags winning, but with a whole lot of drama in between with the rest of the tournament. I think I was just astonished,
But the number 2 team going to the national championship is open. It's wide open now.
Yeah, I like I said, you could literally get the 2 teams we thought were the 2 best teams in the country all year, in Baylor and Gonzaga, but all heck breaks loose because everybody else is so close. Because I look at Baylor yesterday, Santiago. I think Wisconsin played a heck of a game, and they still lost by 13 points.
Interesting.
That's just how good I think Baylor is when they're good, and I think Oklahoma could play a great game today and still lose by 15 points, and I don't know. They could end up pushing Gonzaga to the limit today. Again, I mean, how many times has Gonzaga been pushed this year?
0
they almost,
points.
They were down by 12 to BYU last week in a West Coast championship game. But before that, literally the last time they were pushed in a game was against West Virginia back in Madison Square Garden, or in Indianapolis, excuse me. But and that was in December, so I have no idea what to expect, But I just don't. I don't know what else is going to happen, but I do expect Baylor and Gonzaga to make it too. But we'll talk between then and see what happens.
Yeah.
As we go along.
Ryan, you gotta stop the madness.
Yeah. I embrace the madness. Maybe not my prediction, Santiago, but I do. It's funny as I keep on picking against the upsets. I cheer for them. I love the stories. You love meeting people in March in the sense of teams and players you've never heard of. Because like in football, we're force-fed, the news on the major teams. Well, especially in college basketball, the difference between the high majors and mid majors is not much, and that's why you have so much more parity in college basketball than you do in football. Because it only takes a couple of good players, and that can really flip the switch.
There you have it. Ryan is our bracketologist here at the Sportscast, and poll question of the day. What is your favorite team from West Virginia? The Mountaineers, West Virginia State, West Virginia United, or West Virginia Black Bears and their baseball team?
I mean, I don't really know much about the other 3 teams other than West Virginia University, so I'm going to go pick them.
Go. West Virginia is winning, by the way. So
Santiago, FYI, if you ever go to West Virginia University sports game, I think this is a big thing across the whole state. But you have to get a pepperoni roll. That's like their trademark when you go to a Mountaineers game is you have to get a pepperoni roll.
I will take it. I'll take notice of that. I think I've been through West Virginia one time, and they lost against Syracuse this weekend. So. Yes, food. We're foodies. We're both foodies, and definitely try it out when you go to West Virginia. Ryan Krista, what is the best way to reach you to talk to you about the post game between Oregon and I was going to say VCU, but Oregon and Iowa?
Well, too soon, Santiago, for VCU fans out there.
Too bad, man.
Yeah, Mad Dog Report on Twitter. We'll see what happens. Today. It's nice, I sitting out here on my front porch here, took the day off of work to celebrate college basketball.
And guess what? Our Sportscast contributor, Daryl, has Iowa winning the whole thing.
He's probably sweating right now after this first half.
Hey, Sometimes you got to sweat it out to win it. Anyways, you can reach us at thesportscast.net or at thesportscast1 for the latest and greatest. And this Wednesday, we have Chandler Krista. Maybe Ryan could hop onto that call, and we're going to be fleshing out some more March Madness because there'll be a couple of days off before this weekend. And, of course, hey, we'll see what happens at the end of the day because it's going to be getting crazy. Quite maddening.
Absolutely.
Anyways, Ryan, any closing words? Anything else we need to look out for today or this week?
No, just take in the basketball, enjoy it, appreciate, being here. It may not be the way we thought, and I guess we're all holding our breath that, COVID doesn't take away, a dream season of like a Gonzaga or Baylor. So,
Hold on.
COVID is
what happened with Liberty versus Oklahoma State?
Oh yeah, so our Liberty Flames are at San Diego. They gave a great effort Friday night. Effort-wise was out of the roof, busted their butts, but uncharacteristically just turned the ball over so many times. Santiago. Liberty led by 3 at the half. Second half, Oklahoma State just said, we're better athletes. We're going to take you on one-on-one. And, there really was nothing Liberty could do about it.
Outmatched.
They made some, this outmatch athletically, and that's going to happen. Good coaching by Oklahoma State and that to recognize, the mismatches and take advantage of it. No shame in Santiago. I think this is shaping up to be the greatest year in Liberty sports. I know they didn't win an NCAA tournament game, but remember, football team 10-1. Between football and basketball, they haven't lost a home sporting event, in almost 2 years. And that's due to literally that's this year with having really no home field advantage, but just, pride and protecting the mountain. Santiago baseball team is on an 11-game winning streak. At one time, the soccer team was ranked in the top 15. Softball is playing well. Field hockey, I think, is number 5 in the country. So sports are the team. A lot of good things are happening on the mountain for Liberty Athletics
and making it into March Madness. So that's something else. Anyways, I gotta go get ready for this second half of the Oregon game against Iowa. Anyways, Ryan, thanks for coming on to the Sportscast.
No problem, San Diego. God bless everybody.